what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside the show while it's live, and a link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply click on the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, and this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by A Plain Truth, Sleeping Warrior, Ranty, and Nummy. How are you all doing?
All is well.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
Lost Arwen to a sniper in the break, I understand.
Yeah, and then Alan C got blamed for it. So Ranty sniped. What's his name? Alan. So Alan, if you have another sock account, come back in.
Why did you do that, Ranty?
Because he's a dick.
Because he got rid of Arwen.
He didn't.
Did he?
I apologise to Alan on behalf of Ranty because he's not man enough to admit that he might have got something wrong.
Because he's a cunty.
So for those who don't understand what's going on, I've just had a short break. So the previous show, I might put a link in so you can check out what happened on that show. But yeah, there's just a small 10-minute break between the shows. So this will start as its self-contained own show, but effectively is a few members of the panel that are still here, some that have been sniped in the interval, which is what we're discussing, just so it makes sense.
So the plain truth. Are you there?
Ow.
Maybe not. Maybe we'll hear from her in a moment.
Back off, she's eating a cheese stick.
Or not. So you said you've got a presentation that you guys wanted to do. Oh, there's A Plain Truth sniped the hangout. Let's have a look.
No. I forgot about that, to be fair. No, but what I do found astounding is, has he kicked the hangout?
No,
I don't think so. We're all good. We're all good.
Right. No, what I am finding very interesting, though, is that a delivery driver, a minibus driver, and a painter and decorator can all smash the ballers and all of science because nobody wants to come in and debate us.
I'm waiting for Rumpus to come back in and explain the maths for how we can recover 700 feet of missing curvature.
We've had sons of astronauts, we've had astrophysicists, physicists, chemists, you name it, every kind of person's coming here and they've all disappeared.
Yeah, we had Alan B before, though, didn't we, Ranty? What happened to Alan B?
What happened to him?
Yeah.
Some idiot kicked him.
Sliced Barcane says that I run every single time I ask you to back your claims of seeing Bride. Why is that your claim? Oh wait, because you can't. No, Sly. Everybody can see it apart from you, and until you acknowledge that we can see the land at Bride, there's no conversation with you. Even Jeremy admits we can see it, and Jeremy hates me more than anybody on Flat Earth. So if he can see it and Rumpus can see it, why is it that you still can't see it, Sly? Disingenuous piece of dog shit. Sorry.
That's terrible. Terrible.
Yeah, I just find his intellectual dishonesty unbelievably high at the moment.
So is Timothy Ossman around?
Yeah, he's been jumping in and out.
Oh right, so he wants to discuss his observation, because I'd love to discuss his observation.
No, he's just been trolling in the jumping in and out.
And if Arwen's in the chat, just let me know, and I'll bring you on Skype.
Or Ravinovich.
Yeah, I want to kind of do the Timothy Ossman one, actually.
Do it then.
Should we do it?
You want to?
Should we do it? tomorrow, and then we'll do it.
Does anybody have an Xbox One that would like to get a steering
let's
wheel
not
off me?
get immediately obfuscated by our own side. Right, Ranty, you're up.
Okay. So I took a screen capture from Timothy Ossman yesterday, who presented some brilliant flat Earth proof yet again. Fantastic. This was his observation from his drone, which he claimed was about 28 feet at the time. And the distance to this object was 26 miles. So essentially, I found his location where he actually took this image from, and I've lined it up with Google Earth. And as you can see, everything that I'm looking at right now is proportionate, even down to the trees and the driveway coming into this building. You can see the driveway snakes down, the buildings here, the other buildings on the left. Yeah. So got it pretty much lined up perfectly. What I want to show, though, and it's very interesting, is that when he took it from his observational point to the plate, this Utah state capitol, which is over here, right? And he's looking across these 26 miles, observation point down here. So his elevation from down there is 4,200 feet above sea level. Then he looks across 10 miles of water. Then he comes up to a little bit of a road. And behind that, he has there's a mining operation that happens, and it has a tailings pit, which is here, and it has a place where they put the water in and use it as like a reservoir to clean. I'm presuming it's something to do with gold or something like that. In any event,
guest.
the,
Hold on,
the
Ranty.
tailings.
Sorry to interrupt you, Ranty. Hello, Rethinking. Can you hear us? I need to say hello quicker. Hopefully he hasn't removed everybody. If you do join, make sure you say hello when you join, so I know that you're not just here to remove panel members or troll. Just say hello.
So
anyway, sorry, Ranty, you carry on.
Well, the elevation of the tailings is 4,367 feet. So that is 167 feet higher than his observation point. So from down here, looking across the water, he then comes to this part here, this hump of tailings that is 167 feet high, higher than where he is, right? And then behind that, at 4,500 feet height, and then we have.
I'm here.
Hello, good to have you. Thanks for saying hello.
We have the state capitol building, which is what is evidencing here. And I can prove all this if I go to Google Earth, and I've got this is his line of sight from over here, 26 miles away. Looking at the Capitol building here, this is the elevation profile of that. So from down here, where he took his elevation, which is here, took his image, he scans across the water. He comes up to this tailings pit, which you can just see going across now. And you can see the elevation change. And then behind that, he looks at the state capitol building here. Now, so he said yesterday...
Ranty, you're not telling me that Tim's deliberately cherry-picked a ball earth proof and passed it off as a ball earth proof because of the blockage in the foreground, which is actually application of perspective. You're not saying that Tim spotted this and done that, are you?
Perhaps. But or either that or he's very dense, because all this, where I'm scanning now, if you look at the bottom, can you see where the terrain rises up and down at the bottom? All this area here is where the town is. Well, not the town, it's a city. So...
Ranty, you still there? Still there, Ranty?
Uh-oh.
I think he's lost his internet.
I think he's crashed.
He's not been kicked. He's not been dropped. He's not. I think he's.
I don't see any snipers.
A few seconds. I don't think there's any snipers in here, so.
No. I think he's just disconnected. So I think he's not paid his. He needs 10p in the meter.
Yeah. Hey ho, maybe we'll get Ranty back. Fortunately, he had reached his conclusion pretty much, I would have said. He didn't summarise it again, but hey ho. I'm sure he will.
We got the fake engineer back in. Melissa.
Yeah, I switch accounts every time, and then when I come on, it still says Melissa and shows this little, this my kid's little doll thing. But I specifically switched accounts right before this and looked at it and it said unorthodox, but I don't know what's going on with the account. I try and switch every time, but it seems like every time it switches back as soon as I connect.
There's
You have to use your own login.
I did. I went like before I went to the show. I went to Google Hangouts and looked and saw. I'm using a Chromebook, a little piece of crap Chromebook, but you know, I went to Google Hangouts before and saw like what the account was logged in as, and you know, because sometimes like if you got YouTube open or you got like Gmail open, you've got all these different accounts open. You know, if you have a computer, you know, like around the house that people use. So I made sure everything was on the same account, and then I went to Google Hangouts specifically and looked and saw that it was unorthodox, and it still shows up as Melissa.
Well, I think you're screwing it up somehow.
Nah,
Yeah.
I get the same thing. I get when I joined Patricia's show the other day, I joined on my wife's account, and it didn't seem to matter what I did, and in the end I just gave up, and I thought, who cares? If it says Audio Paula, it says Audio Paula. It's not me, obviously. I'm not Paula.
Hello,
Yeah,
hello. It was the
tried.
blue screen of death again with this PC. This is why I'm getting Anthony to build me one.
Ouch! Blue screen of death. I haven't seen that one in a minute.
I've had about 15 blue screens of death in the last week. It's really getting.
Try taking a slot of one of your memory out, one of your RAM sticks out, because blue screens are normally caused by RAM failing, and RAMs do fail. It's the most common failure on a PC RAM. It can be other things, but it's most likely to be RAM.
To be fair, I've only got to last another couple of days anyway, so it's not really the end of the world. I can handle it for now.
Anyway, so were you getting to the end of this? Were you just about to make your point, or what?
Just bear with me now. I'm getting my stuff back again, and I'll show you.
So let's debate, Melissa. Let's debate something. What do you want to
Well,
debate?
I was gonna let him finish until we get a little heated. I'm sure it will happen, but I was gonna let him finish his little presentation.
Good for you and Orthodox. Thank you for that. And yeah, I can tell you're keen on me, but yeah, Ranty's 90% there, I'm sure.
I am actually 90%, yeah.
Got the taste of blood, haven't you, Nunny?
In there for a minute.
Sense blood in the water. Let us know when you're ready, Ranty.
I will. Right. Okay, let me share my screen. Where are we?
Hello.
Hello?
No, I was talking to my daughter.
Oh, excuse me. I thought that was somebody coming in.
No. Right, you're up.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, pretty much what I was presenting before, I'll show you on Google Earth, is that he said yesterday that he can't see any of the town, right? I remember him saying that explicitly, that he can't, when he sees it from this 26 mile, the only other things he ever sees is the Capitol building, essentially. Well, if you look at all these buildings here, they're in the dip. The elevation is 4250, basically, and this is in the way.
I can't see his screen, by the way.
You can't see this.
On his name.
Oh, okay.
His observational point to down here looks across the water, comes up to this tailings pit that's in the way, and then the town, all this area here, this town is behind the tailings pit, so you would never see it anyway. The tailings pit that's in the way. Now, I remember him specifically saying yesterday that he lives in this location, he knows it very well, and he is distraught at the fact that he cannot see all these buildings here, right? So the only building that you can actually see, which is on a mound, bearing in mind it's like the high point on Salt Lake City, is the Capitol building. And going back to his image, which is here, what he actually does view is the entirety of the Capitol building, even the buildings to the side of it, even the trees, the individual trees and the pathway, the walkway going up. Literally, he sees everything. So it's exactly as you would expect to see. And he would never see any of the buildings in, you know, of the city, because this tailings pit's in the way, you know. So his assumption that, okay, you can see these, what was it, hyenas or something yesterday? Was it was it hyenas that he was seeing? Hang on, let me see. It was somewhere down. They were on the
I think it was a coyote. He said it was
coyotes, right? So they're on this piece of land here. These coyotes. This is the shoreline. 10 miles away.
Of that land, Ronty?
It's the same height. It's the same height as this.
What
From
is that
there,
elevation?
The same height.
10 feet or
4,200.
whatever.
4,200. Yeah, it's about 10 feet in total from there to the road.
Right. So perspective means that's that 10-foot elevation, right? If they're going to put me at 10, what was it, 10 feet on the beach, right? We'll put him at 10 feet on this part of the land. So ultimately, that 10 feet in the foreground is going to be bigger than the stuff in the background, and basically, it's perspective. Thanks, Tim. Flat Earth proof.
Well, also, if you think about where he said that he could see it at 28 feet, and then when he dropped down to like 2 feet in elevation, he couldn't see anything. That's exactly my entire presentation earlier on today, when I showed that when I held the camera at 2.5 feet and I was looking through the refraction zone, it blotted out all of the barrow, the inside of barrow. And when I lifted up to 4.5 to 5 feet, it all popped back again. So it's all to do with that. Yeah, sometimes you can get through the refraction zone underneath it. Most of the time you're looking through it and it will distort you at very low levels. You know, you've just got to capture the right time and the right part of the day. But essentially, he doesn't know his terrain. He says he lives here, but, you know, he's looking over this tailings pit here, and that's why he won't see any of the town, and he sees the Capitol building because it's actually on a hill. It's exactly as you'd expect to see. So try again, Tim.
Thanks for the flat Earth proof.
Excellent flat Earth proof.
You know, just like to say, you know, if you're looking in, you guys should be able to repeat this in thousands of locations. You know, not just one or two, you know, occurrences over bodies of water. You should be able to reproduce this over and over and over again. There should be thousands of places where you guys can do similar, you know, observations.
Well, I'm sure if people started doing that they would find exactly that. It's
Yeah,
just
it's a
that we
great
don't
plug.
have the number of people making the observations necessary to make thousands of observations and thousands of
Yes,
locations.
you do. You
Great
guys
plug.
you guys had a conference in the UK that had like 1,000+ people, right?
But not everyone
How
has
many people was at that
900 though.
conference?
Well, no.
500.
No, it wasn't even close to 1,000, and not all these people have
Oh, it
the
wasn't?
equipment or locations that are. Not all these people live in a location or have the equipment necessary to produce this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair enough. Probably 50 people live near the coastline out of the 200, and probably of the 50, maybe, let's say 10 of them had a P900, you know, and then you've got to find the time to go and do it. You know, it's not simply just, oh, yeah, every day someone can go and do something. People have got things to do in their lives.
And it's
Well, I
surprising.
mean, you can get a similar picture with a nice smartphone camera. I mean, iPhone cameras today are absolutely incredible compared to 5 years ago. You don't need a P900 to get a shot that shows you're seeing, you know, a long distance.
Yes, you
do.
do.
Yeah,
No,
you
you
do.
don't.
If you want to get a shot of over 30 miles or something like that, you're going to need a telephoto zoom. But
No, if
okay,
the light
let me
is hitting your lens, the light is hitting your lens.
Yeah, I know, but you can't make out certain details due to the limitations of the photo sensor.
You could make out some details. You could get a picture with an iPhone camera.
Yeah, you can, but
like
one
he's doing right
pixel
here.
in
You
your
go-
focal length of an iPhone is going to represent a huge, massive amount of the horizon. It could represent a whole boat, just one pixel. Whereas if you've got some zoom and a decent resolution, then you can see the whole boat. So it's ludicrous to say that you don't need anything more than an iPhone. It doesn't even give you the focal
I'm
length
not
that you can
talking
see
about
with your
seeing
own
the
eyes.
boat. I'm just talking about seeing, you know, like the landscape essentially. You know, like the bigger landscape objects.
So you're
No,
looking for, so you need an area where you can see mountains. Is that what you're saying? Because
Well, I mean, usually
there's
that's
not
what
a
you
lot of
got. No, you don't have to.
mountains in in the UK.
Not a whole lot of mountains in the UK.
Not especially. No, you have.
Well, I mean, you guys
portion
can
in
tell we're
Wales,
in the
a
EU,
portion
right?
in Scotland. Sorry.
This is such a silly point you're making, Melissa. It's just ridiculous.
Silly
Like,
point. How is it a silly point?
that
Come on,
using
can
an
you
iPhone
stop calling
is-
him Melissa? Can you just call him unorthodox?
that
Yeah, come on, man.
all right, so that the idea that a P900 is equivalent to an iPhone camera in terms
I'm not
of
saying
its
they're equivalent. I'm saying you just need to see the larger, you know, structures of the landmass. You don't need to see a tiny boat. You just need to observe the larger
but-
structures of the mass.
No, but you come to the same problem where if the land is not very high, then it's just going to be like, you know, one pixel, if that.
Indeed.
I'm not saying it would. I'm not saying it wouldn't help to have a P900. I'm just saying, you could get some pretty decent results with an iPhone camera. You could see, you could get a shot of, like the people do from Chicago, right? The Mirage of
There's
Chicago.
no way that you're going to be taking the kind of observations Ranty and Anthony are doing with an iPhone camera.
Oh, well,
just,
yeah, I mean, if you take it down to the granular level, right? I'm just saying, like, the bigger picture, to see land masses like you did with the Isle of Man picture, you can see the mountaintops. If you took a picture with an iPhone, I'd almost bet you anything you could still see those land masses.
Don't talk.
Yeah,
about
but
That's my plan.
It's not going to be clear enough to build an argument on. And okay, so let me ask you this: so if there was thousands of people who had made these observations from different locations, the way that Anthony and Ranty have, would that convince you that the Earth was flat?
I'd be impressed. I don't know if it would convince me, but I'd be pretty impressed.
But you're saying that we should, that in order to make this argument, there should be thousands of examples, right? That's
Absolutely. I mean, at least, at the very bare minimum, 10, 20, there should be multiple examples.
There's way more than that. If you look on YouTube, there's people who've made similar observations along the Great Lakes, Chicago, Toronto. I think there's some people who've done it in Hawaii.
Yeah, you guys need to start a list, like a photography list.
I agree. I was saying before in a chat the other day that I think it would be nice if somebody started a database that organized these things by geography and.
Unorthodox. Can I have your attention?
Sure.
Can I ask you a couple of questions, Nathan? Sorry to interrupt. I have to go in 10 minutes because I've got to be somewhere. But before I go, I just want to ask Unorthodox a couple of questions. Nathan, would you share my screen, please?
Yeah, sure. Done.
So you're familiar with this guy called Soundly? You may have to click the thumbnail in the Hangout, Unorthodoxed.
Your Sleeping Warrior? Yeah, okay. There. Yeah. The Pontchartrain?
Yeah. You've seen his work before?
I've just seen Lake Pontchartrain as an example. I don't know anybody specifically.
So you have, or you've not seen this?
I've seen this, but I don't know the actual person who made it that you're referring to.
No, you don't need to. You don't need to know him. But the question I'm asking you is: do you think that he shows the curvature of the Earth?
I mean, it's pretty compelling.
Okay.
It definitely appears that way.
So this guy's called. I call him Refraction Soundly, but on this video, DCN 1121 or DSCM whatever. He's got these pylons, and he does a lot of these observations with the pylons and the boat and the causeway. And I'll just press play for a sec while we show it that it is a video. It's not a photograph. But if I pause it on screen, you can see that the pylons seem to bend, curve up initially, and then they bend back on themselves, and it looks like a C. Can you see the point that I'm highlighting my mouse over?
Yeah, it kind of appears to kind of go up and then down.
And then they got this horizon that seems to be lower than the height of the things, which is, for me, it's a little bit odd. But would you say that that's the curve of the Earth that he's demonstrating, or would you accept the possibility that it could be explained with something optical?
Well, I mean, there's always the possibility of, I would say there's always a possibility, but I saw the example that you guys were making. You showed some gentleman with the camera on a hot road. Yeah, this video, I don't really think that's analogous at all. This is a very hot road, obviously, and he's right at level with the surface. This guy is, obviously feet above the surface, looking out onto a not extremely hot surface. Black pavement specifically absorbs more heat than other colors. So I mean, that would be like a worst case scenario.
So how, from the optical effect that you're seeing in this image, even though, and I accept that there are variables that are different, but the effect is still the same. This is clearly an optical effect. We have the lower horizon and we have the Armco barrier bending back on itself. So even though the conditions are slightly different, the effect is still the same.
Yeah, there's look to be a similar effect in the sense that light's warping, but like I said, I don't really think you can compare those two because you're so close to a hot road. Even before he gets level with it, starts miraging. I mean, that's like the most extreme cases we've all seen. We've all seen hot roads, doing a mirage, and that's about the only thing a lot of people have seen as far as mirages go. So this is like the prime conditions for miraging, whereas the other gentleman's video, they're not prime conditions for miraging. He's not close to the ground. He's not, and there's here's clear arc there. I would say, it's pretty compelling. Can I move on to another argument? I've seen you guys make this before. I'd like to move on to another argument maybe people haven't made in a little
sure you
bit. I know
are.
you guys have been doing this. Do what?
We can move forward. I just wanted to say that you actually dismissed the optical comparison because the circumstances are different. Is that your position?
Yeah, I'm just saying, they're not. It's not a one-to-one comparison. So, if you could
Wow.
demonstrate something similar, I mean, was there something wrong with that?
Yeah.
What's
Okay.
wrong? What's wrong with that?
Well, it's the exact same optical phenomena. Whatever that phenomena is, it's the same effect. So, regardless of the conditions, we're able to recreate it optically and see the same effects.
No.
Not necessarily. I mean, we don't. I think that it's possible that this video of Soundly's is manipulated using.
Sure, but the point is, we still.
But then that would be a different optical effect. So you can't just assume that it's the same thing.
It's the same effect. So unless somebody can contrast it, and I'm not saying that it is or isn't contrastable, but even when we saw the land bending back on itself on the Isle of Man footage, we're seeing the same effect. We're seeing land bending under each other when it doesn't actually do it.
Yeah, but I think I'm getting a better understanding of what's going on with his stuff now, and it's all to do with the amount of layers that you're looking through. So it's not just one layer of refraction. So the further away he's actually looking at those two, they're all identical, and they're all going further away across a flat lake. And what's happening is, as he's looking at it, they're going through individual layers of refraction. And you've seen with the observations that have been taken with Barrow, that forces the buildings to be pulled downwards in a downward stretch, and that's exactly what's happening with his footage. Is that they're being twisted into, it's being like they're being stretched downwards, but incrementally across each pylon. The further away the pylon is, the more of an effect it's having on it.
I guarantee you that you will never reproduce that effect using normal natural photography, like without some sort of digital manipulation.
The Lake Pontchartrain video.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the experiment with sugar water and a laser?
Yeah. What does that have to do with it?
Just saying, it bends light and it looks really similar.
Yeah. Well, it's not even remotely comparable because we're talking about air versus water. And we're talking
no, it's similar in the sense that the refraction indexes can change from one place to another.
Yeah, but there's no medium change.
There's no medium change in the sugar water experiment. It's all sugar water.
There's a density gradient change, right? But it's so extreme in a 2-foot tank. It's ridiculous to compare those two things. Plus, it's a totally different medium.
That's just extreme example.
It's water with sugar
you're also getting
settled.
the internal reflections from the refraction that's through the glass as well.
You can put the laser in the actual tub itself.
Yeah. I bet you put the laser in the actual tank, you're going to see something totally different.
No, absolutely not.
Well, okay, well, prove it. Show me the example.
Well, maybe I'll do it one day. I don't have the setup at this very moment. I mean, I very well could probably find a video, but I'm saying for me to do it myself, I don't have the tools right this second to do it.
Why are you so convinced that I'm wrong if you've never actually seen it?
Because your logic doesn't make sense.
So glass doesn't have its own refraction index that would be separate from the water?
The effect is happening like a foot away from the glass. It's not happening near the glass.
Yeah, I know, but it's much more complex than that when you actually get into what's going on in terms of how the light's behaving as it passes through the glass. And anyways,
you can tell how the light passes through the glass if you put your hand in front of the glass and you can see that there's no ups.
No, it's interesting because you bring up this example, like before when he tries to compare that footage to the hot road, then you say, oh, well, it's different conditions, different circumstances. You can't really compare it. But now you want to compare a laser going through sugar water to the atmosphere.
I mean, yeah, I do. You don't have to. You don't have to buy that. You don't have to set it up.
Hello, Meter.
I'm just making an example.
Hello,
I'm just
Meter.
saying that you use the same. You criticize someone using that logic and then turn
I'm
around.
not criticizing him. I'm just saying I don't buy it.
Well, why would you buy why would you buy this silly comparison? So I'm just saying it's like you criticize it and then you turn around 1 second later.
I didn't criticize it. I just said I don't buy it.
Okay,
but you don't
present my screen, please, Nathan.
Yeah, it's on.
You don't buy.
Okay.
The one thing to mention though is that
the
water solution is 700 times more dense than air.
Okay, well, this is looking at something across a bit of beach and water. Can you tell me what this object is?
Hold on. Let's see here. You're
There's a
ranty.
T-shirt in it if you
am,
can
yeah.
guess.
No,
Ranty will
I
give
mean
you a
there is a lot
t-shirt.
of optical phenomenon that goes on the horizon. You know, there
I'm gonna
definitely
play the
is.
video. I'm gonna play the video. Can you tell me if that's a black hole or something?
Um,
If I said to you, "There's a black hole there," would you believe that was a black hole?
a black hole? No.
Would you, if I said that CERN had blown up and it had caused a black hole in the atmosphere and this was the result of it, would you believe me?
No, that's a pretty interesting effect.
It is indeed. So
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of optical phenomena that goes on the horizon. You know, I'm just saying I don't buy that example. Let's move on to something else. You guys have covered it a couple times in the show.
well, I've not covered this example. I've
Hold
only
on,
just showed
that's
this
kind of the
today.
point,
This is
though.
the first time I've showed this.
That's the point. You're saying there's lots of optical effects that go on at the horizon, yet when we show you a piece of sound leaf footage, you're like, that's compelling.
I said it appears to show the curvature of the Earth. You know, I mean, it is pretty compelling because that goes along with 15 other observations.
But why aren't you
Right.
giving the same disclaimer? There's lots of strange stuff that's going on at the horizon, but yet when it comes to sound leaf stuff, you don't.
But that isn't
disclaimer.
exactly at the horizon. The curve
Right,
appears
is it not?
is more predominant
Is it not?
in the middle of
My observation of the church. And I
So
said, show why
pylons
it's
disappearing into the distance on the horizon. That's not the horizon. Okay.
No,
That's
the
not
middle.
the-
I'm talking about the tops of the.
Well, how high are
tops
those
of the power
pylons?
lines.
How
about
how
this?
high are those pylons? Those pylons at Soundly are around about 250 feet high. So this, whatever this is, if I go back just a couple of frames, you can see Blackpool Tower on the right, on the left here, which is at 500 feet, which is about twice the size of those pylons. So this is much lower on the horizon in comparison to Soundly's. So you saying that it doesn't compare? I totally disagree.
Much lower on the horizon compared to Soundly's.
Is that on the
Those
horizon?
towers are at least,
on the
I would
horizon.
imagine, 75 to 100 feet.
You just said it wasn't on the horizon, though.
No, I'm talking about the top of Soundly's video, where
Right.
the arc of the tops of the power lines are.
Exactly, yeah. So if I had whatever this object was, and it was whatever this object is, I'm not going to tell you what it is because if I do, then it'll give away the point of the giveaway that I'm doing. However, if I had 100 pylons all lined up in position here, at some point they would meet this band of distorted air that's going on across here. Would you agree? At some point they would have to meet that, or I would have to see that. They would have. What I'm viewing them, they would have to pass
The
through
bottom
this.
of them.
So at the top, and due to perspective, the further away they go, they're going to get smaller, aren't they? So at some point, the top of those pylons are going to have to for me to see them, they're going to have to go through this band of air here that's causing this effect on this particular object here, right? So the further away those pylons are, once they get to 15, 16 miles away, they're going to be like a matchstick on the horizon.
Yeah.
So I would have to look through this air, whatever's causing this to warp and not look anything like what it actually is going to have the same effect on those pylons. Whereas the nearer pylons that are much nearer, it might only be affecting the bottom part slightly, but the tops will be okay.
Sure.
I guarantee. You know what? I want to just say that, like you said, that we should have thousands of examples of repeated evidence if we're to accept
yeah.
these evidence of the flat Earth.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, eventually.
Soundly is the only. Soundly's footage is. He's the only person that has any footage that resembles that. And other people who have gone and filmed the exact same shots in the exact same locations have not been able to repeat his result. So he's the only person in the history of photography who's ever captured anything that remotely looked like that. And I guarantee you that, and I would even challenge Ranty to that. I guarantee you will not reproduce that
I've reproduced this same black hole phenomenon on 2 different days, but I've done it on 3 separate videos on 2 separate days.
To be honest, Ranty, you're
that's
missing
not
the biggest
like
argument.
Soundly's footage at all. That's not comparable to Soundly's footage.
I mean, that's comparable to like NASA.
All I'm saying is
NASA
that I
footage,
can
man.
go to
Hey,
the
Alan.
same location, hold the camera in the same position, looking at the same position, right? Same angle, same height, looking across the same body of land, and I can recreate this effect of a black hole, right? And
Yeah.
I can put a video out every day and say black hole of Blackpool, black hole of Blackpool every single day.
Yeah, but that doesn't have
Until
any.
somebody goes there and disproves it, right? Now, Soundly just gets in the correct position where this atmospheric effect takes place and makes some object that would normally look nice and crystal clear be warped and morphed into this black hole type, or in his case, the curve effect.
Yeah, but you're not talking about one object. You're talking about a whole series, a whole row of objects. And I'm just telling
So
you,
they
you're not going
they incrementally get more of this distortion the further away they go.
No,
So as they narrow
it
it in
doesn't work like
perspective, they also
okay, well, if you think you can
That's
get it,
death.
then reproduce it then. Okay, you're not going to get that effect. I'm telling you, you're not going to get that effect with a row or a column of posts. Okay, because
Well,
the refraction doesn't work the way that you think it does. It's not going to be incrementally over distance like that because it's not caused by
Looks like the Grim
refraction.
Reaper to me.
Okay, so I'm just telling you, you can argue all you want that this is the same thing as Soundly's footage, but it's totally has nothing to do with it. And I guarantee
my
you,
point is
if
that
I'm wrong, then go reproduce it then.
my point is that this object doesn't look like this. That's my point. My point is that I can go down to
It
the
has nothing to
beach.
do with Soundly's
It's
footage.
not a compelling argument, I'll tell you that much.
It's not has nothing to do
It's
with
a black hole.
Soundly's
Then.
footage.
It's a
And that
black hole.
Soundly's
Go
footage
and
is
disprove me
fraud.
wrong.
Absolute fraud.
All right, disprove me
It's
wrong.
interesting on its
It's
own.
a black hole. There you
Ranty,
go.
can I just
The
say,
black hole of Blackpool. Right?
Ranty, you have an
Disprove it.
18-mile observation that's the same as
I do,
same
yeah.
distance as Soundly's. That's your strongest evidence because it's the same distance. You should be able to replicate the apparent curvature at 18 miles that Soundly does. That's your strongest piece of evidence. It's the same distance. We should get the same results.
Yeah, no. But
Can I ask Sleeping Warrior something?
You can. I'm going in 2 minutes though, so be quick.
Well, I was just curious if there was a specific negative number that you had a problem with that physics tells us is correct.
One that physically can't be produced. So if you,
I mean, did you have a specific a specific integer in mind, or were you just making a bigger
so
picture argument?
if you've got 2 apples, I can't physically take 5 apples off you and leave you with -3 apples.
Well, I'm just saying, do you have a specific example from physics and science that
I've just
they?
given you one.
No, I'm talking about like a number that has to do with some of the physical some of the science that deals with the Earth's curvature, refraction, gravity. Do you have a specific number in mind that you're trying to relate that to?
Yeah, something that can't be observed in the real world, like -3 apples.
No, I'm talking about a specific number, like the curvature or like the refraction index, like a negative refraction. That's not a thing, but I'm just saying, like a negative number that physics tells us is true.
Negative refraction is not a thing. It is. There is evidence that shows that light.
I'm just talking about the way it's represented mathematically. It's been a while since I might be wrong about this, but you could do it in a way that's not negative.
So what you're saying is you want a value that's represented in the sphere Earth, but is quantifiable in the same ways Anthony's quantified. You can't have -3 apples. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I was just
okay. No worries.
Connection.
Can you show me some scientific evidence of the R value that's used in all of the Earth's sphericity mathematics?
That's not a negative number, though.
It doesn't have to be a negative number. It's just a number.
It's just a number that maths describes or quantifies that can't be repeated in the real world. And I agree. The radius is a good example of one.
Couldn't I just owe you 3 apples, though?
No, because physically you've got to give me 5 apples if the maths is going to represent real world.
But I mean, if you're not equating that to a specific example,
apples, but you haven't physically given me them, right?
No, but I mean, I'm just saying for that to have any weight, you have to point it to a specific example in physics that has a negative number.
No, I'm pointing to an example in physics that doesn't represent the real world. Just because it can be done with maths doesn't mean it can be done in the real world. And the radius.
What's done with maths that's negative? That has a negative number.
It's about, is it real? Can it be done real world or not? So the radius example is one that's good. Can you show
Well,
how
it
the radius
can if you have enough apples, right?
No, you can't do it with apples. If you've got 2 apples, and I can't take 5 off you if you've only got 2, right?
Yeah, but if I have 5, you can take 5 off of me.
Right, but that's physically matching the reality of the world that we live in, right?
Exactly.
Right, but if you've only got 2, then you can't do it.
But I'm just saying you're not relating that to any specific thing. So just in by itself, it doesn't make much. Doesn't make any sense.
He's relating it to apples. He's saying you can't have -3 apples. You can't have.
I'm talking about something, a number that science gives us, that physics gives us, that's negative, that you have a problem with. Saying this number's negative, I don't like it. You can't have that in the real world.
Giving you a physical example. Apples. You can't have
No,
negative.
that's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about something that physics or science tells us.
I think he's asking me what was I referencing it to in the conference. Nath, do you remember what the point was at the time?
I mean, I'm not really trying to go anywhere with this. I was just curious if you had like a example you were thinking of.
I don't.
Well,
Let
I
me
think
think about it.
the apples
I've
example
got
is
to drop,
perfect.
gents, so I'll leave you to it. Have a good day. I'll catch you tomorrow.
The
See you later,
apple,
Anthony.
See you later.
the apples example is perfectly legitimate. That's the physical world. You could.
You
have,
don't understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do.
I'm saying where is a negative number that physics professors or science professors tell us that he can relate his example to something that physics and science is saying. Not just an example he come up with, an example that science tells us.
Well, I think what his point was is that mathematics, the fact that you can prove something mathematically doesn't mean that the mathematical model corresponds to anything real, right? That you
Well,
can
if it has a negative number as an output, yes, but if it doesn't have a negative number as an output, then that argument is completely invalid.
Okay,
No, 'cause
so
he's
you can
saying
provide
that
us with scientific
mathematically-
evidence of the R value then without any difficulty. Just give us the scientific evidence for that value.
R?
Yeah.
Let me kind of move the show forward a little bit. You guys know like satellite dishes, right? Satellite dishes are a thing. Have any of you ever had satellite TV?
I'm sorry, is this the scientific evidence of R?
You want me to? I can go into scientific evidence if you want me to.
Yeah,
So,
that's what
yeah,
we love.
that was specifically the question.
Well, I'll do a proof of gravity, a different one. Since you guys are so science friendly, I'll develop the theory of gravity on your show. So we need multiple
Listen to
examples,
me
right? I did
and
one
what I've
before.
just
We
said
need
to you, you dumbass. I'm asking for, specifically for, your scientific evidence of the R value used in globe Earth mathematical formulas.
Yeah, I'm not. If you prove gravity, then that falls in line. So I have to do
I
gravity
don't
first. And then I
care
could
about gravity. I'll say it again for the hard of hearing. I want your scientific evidence of the R value used in all globe Earth mathematics. Did you
I don't have that ready
understand
to
what I
present.
asked
You
for?
guys say
Because
gravity
if
isn't real,
if
you're a
I get a
science-friendly
third
show.
obfuscation,
How long will it take
don't
to
talk
do
over
gravity?
me. I've explained
How
it
long-
twice.
how
If
long
I
will
get a
it take
third
to do it,
obfuscation,
prove
it
it?
just
About
means that
5
you
minutes.
have
You're
hit
gonna
a
prove
brick
gravity
wall.
in 5
Stop
minutes?
talking over me. It means you've hit a brick wall. We've given you an example where you cannot give us physical evidence of it at all. But you're going to obfuscate and talk over me rather than just concede that it's the exact same thing mathematically.
Do what now? Concede that what?
It's the same thing mathematically.
What's the same thing mathematically?
The R value that you have absolutely no scientific
The R
evidence
value
for.
isn't negative,
And
Nathan.
why are you talking over me? The mathematical...
There's a delay.
You're doing it again. Yet
There's a
they are
delay,
the
Nathan.
same. You just can't help yourself. It's the same mathematical equivalent as -3 apples, something that doesn't exist.
Absolutely
the same
not.
as scientific evidence of Earth radius. You don't have any.
If I do gravity first, I can then do the radius.
Ugh.
Like I said, it'll only take me 5 minutes. You guys can tear it apart.
There's no scientific evidence of gravity either.
Yeah, I can. That's what I would like to do. That's what I'd
I'm
like
not
to present.
interested in the gravity one. Even if there was, there isn't. There's no scientific evidence of either thing. But I'm asking specifically for R. You haven't got any, and you want to obfuscate by going on to gravity. It's a perfect example
You
of
brought
a
up
value that exists in mathematics but has no relevance to the real world.
It's not negative, Nathan. It's not the same thing.
Oh,
You're
don't be
obfuscating
such
here.
a
You're trying to relate R to
retard.
some negative number.
Don't
It's not
be
even
such
close.
a retard. There's 150 plus people watching. Do you really want to actually portray yourself as a retard? Because you are.
Yes, I would love to.
Oh, great. Knock yourself out.
Ranty wants to hear the proof of gravity. I mean, it's very quick. You guys can tear it up as soon as I do. It'll take me like 2 minutes to go through it, and then you guys have at it. Go. You could tear it apart.
Okay, fine. What's the observed phenomena?
Air pressure changes as you move up and away from Earth.
Okay.
But-
Well, It doesn't follow the inverse square law of gravity.
Let's go through the, like I said, you can pick apart after I go through the example. Okay, step 2, ask a question. Why does the air pressure change?
Hold on, I haven't got your observed phenomena. What's the thing you're observing?
Air pressure changing.
So,
As you move up and
the
away from Earth's
observed
surface.
phenomena is air pressure changing.
Mm-hmm.
So you observe air pressure changes.
Yeah, you have, in your ear, you can feel it in your ear.
Okay.
Or you can take a bottle or something up.
So the observed phenomena is pressure change.
Yes.
And you're trying to establish the cause and effect relationship in this observed phenomena.
Yes.
Okay. What's the cause and effect?
Well, you got to ask the question first. So step 1 to make
the next thing you do is you establish your hypothesis, which would be the cause and effect relationship, the independent and the dependent variable in your next step, which would be the experiment. But first, we need to hear the hypothesis. So what is your independent and dependent variable in this test regarding the observed phenomena of pressure change?
Yes.
So what's the independent and dependent variables?
Independent variable is height, and the air pressure is dependent upon the independent variable. So air pressure is the dependent variable.
You can't have the observed phenomena the same as the dependent variable.
Absolutely you can. I didn't even get to my hypothesis. Let me tell you the hypothesis, okay? If the air pressure changes as you move up and away from the Earth, then it must be due to the air particles being attracted to Earth, i.e. gravity. And the experiment is you measure the air pressure as you move away from Earth's surface.
That's your observed phenomena.
Do what?
That's your observed phenomena. This is retarded.
Yes,
why am I even doing this? This is the most stupid scientific hypothesis I've ever heard.
We'll tear it apart. What's wrong with it?
Well,
it's retarded. You dumbass.
Why must the cause of the air pressure increase be due to the attraction of the air to the Earth?
That's my hypothesis because
but you're not proving your
right. Yeah, I am. No, I mean, that's scientific proof.
You're identifying a correlation, but you cannot prove the causation of your correlation. You're showing that there's a correlation. You could potentially show there's a correlation between height and air pressure, but that does not determine the cause of the air pressure gradient.
It does if I develop it with other observations. Like I said, not just one scientific experiment will do, but I did another example on here, which was your weight changing as you move up and away from Earth. So that concludes that's the same thing here.
Problem there, where you're just showing a correlation, but you're not showing a causation because you can't vary.
You can never really prove. I can show correlation. Causation is a whole other thing. Well, we could do the Cavendish experiment too.
Sorry, I've got to interject there. Causation is a whole other thing. No, that is what the scientific method is designed to establish, you complete retard. A cause in a cause and effect relationship.
So I'm going through the scientific method, Nathan. So what's the problem?
You're retarded.
Nathan,
that's the problem here.
He admitted that it's only a correlation that he's demonstrating. So
I just used the wrong terminology. I mean, if you guys say that the scientific method proves a cause, then here we go. We've got a scientific method here proving a cause.
No, you're not using the scientific method.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not.
What's not? So what am I not? How is this not a scientific method example?
Because
you have an independent and dependent variable. You have an experiment. Nothing is. Do what?
The thing you're trying to prove is not something that you're varying.
That's not how it works. You vary the independent variable.
All you're showing is a correlation between height.
But I'm using the scientific method, so I'm showing a cause.
You're showing a correlation between air pressure and height, and saying, well, it must be that the air is attracted to the Earth. But this must be because has no actual evidence or proof to.
Well, this by itself wouldn't necessarily prove it, but this with other examples, like I did with the weight example.
Don't do a Charles. Don't do a Charles on us, for God's sake. It either proves something or it doesn't prove something. And your hypothesis,
no scientific theory
if height, then air pressure change, proves if height, then air pressure change. The correlation between cause and effect is if height. So if you want to know what the cause is in your crappy hypothesis, it's height. There's your cause.
Yeah, height means your distance away from the Earth.
Right, so you're going to draw a new
So you're
correlation,
changing
are
your
you?
relationship to how close you are to the
Look,
mass.
dumbass, you've
exactly.
already established it's not a
Exactly.
causal relationship that you're proving here, and you're now going on to say if you combine it with other things, you're doing a flat Earth math.
No, I'm doing
Yeah.
science, Nathan. You said you want
No,
to.
there's nothing about anything that you have uttered today that was in any way scientific. We are all more stupid having listened to you.
I mean, you haven't really said anything consequential. I said I went through it.
You're just piling a bunch of, whatchamacallit?
Scientific methods together.
No. Fuck. I can't think of the term.
See, this is what happens when we go through logical stuff like this. You guys get stumped. I think it's pretty funny.
No, I just can't think of a word.
You guys were stumped the last example I did, and it was
stumped.
pretty
I'm just
funny.
trying to think of a specific word.
We're stumped with a
Yeah, I'd
word
like to say
that
I think
describes
it's
how retarded
very
you are.
interesting that science has advanced so far, that the technology is so far ahead. We have people like you guys denying the existence of the technologies that man has made.
Science is not
That's pretty
technology.
interesting to me.
Science
Piling up-
is technology are the different things.
You're piling a whole bunch of circumstantial evidence up and then saying that counts as
That's not circumstantial.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. It's circumstantial.
It's not
Yeah,
circumstantial. Circumstantial is like he said, she said kind of stuff.
Well, no, it's just that it's the
These are
idea
empirical observations that you can measure.
No, it's
Right?
that you.
I'd like to say this too. You guys don't have to,
Why do you keep talking over me?
because you got a little bit of a delay.
No, you just
Go
keep
ahead.
talking over me, and you're not letting me finish the sentence.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, I'm saying that you're saying okay that all you can demonstrate is a correlation between height and air pressure, but that if you can demonstrate that correlation similarly over a number of examples, that somehow stands in for having some kind of actual proof of cause.
That's
right?
how science works.
No, that's not how science works. And those
It
things,
absolutely is.
no, it isn't. And that's this, and those kinds of correlations are the equivalent of circumstantial evidence.
Absolutely not. I'm following this to the T. If you're going to make a scientific theory, you need more than one experiment. So I was going to present more than one experiment on your show.
Yeah, but
We can do 3 examples. We can do weight, air pressure, and the Cavendish experiment.
You're going to have to show cause through your experimental.
I am showing cause through my experiment.
Where does gravity come into
What else would be affecting the air particles?
Well,
Right? You could do it at the same temperature. You could do it at the same temperature, right?
Don't use your imagination to answer that question. What else could be? Well, I could think of other things. It could be an electrostatic field. It could
You
be
can measure that.
that the surface of the Earth is accelerating upward. I could think of lots of other just so stories. So you're not
If
proving
the Earth was accelerating up, wouldn't that mean that?
I don't think it's accelerating up, but you're just saying that what else could be? Well, I could think of other things that.
Yeah, but all those you can knock out, though.
No, you can't.
Yeah, you can measure, the electrostat. You can measure the electric fields and all the fields up there. You can measure the electrical field as you go up as well. If you wanted to make another, if you wanted to tack that on, I guess you could, and you would find that, indeed.
No, because if we can't, the thing is that if there's conditions that we are not able to create experiments that we can negate, then we can never really test their effects, right? Like we could be subject to fields that we cannot get outside of, so thus we cannot test what the actual effect of those fields are.
Well, I mean, a lot of people don't say proof in science. It's like a best approximation. I can make these examples, and I can tell you that 99.99% of stuff matches up. So for this to equal this makes perfect logical sense. You can always go a step further and say that it's very manipulating it.
No, but it does not. What your argument does not make logical sense. You're going.
Nami, you're way off here. Seriously.
No. You're
He's
going.
He's doing it the right way.
No,
Exactly.
you're going from correlation to causation.
No,
absolutely not.
No. The fact that there's a correlation between height and air pressure does not demonstrate anything but the cause.
Yeah, because it's not just one hypothesis; it's more, and then the more that proves the point.
So what's the hypothesis that shows anything other than a correlation?
Multiple hypotheses prove the hypothesis, show the cause.
Okay, like what? Name one.
The one I did before with weight.
Well, that just shows a correlation. It's not like
It shows that there's a force that we can explain by that's pulling down on the air and mass and all that, right? So if you call it gravity or whatever.
No, you're not explaining that force. All you're doing is
you're not explaining the force, but you're showing that the force exists.
No, you're not showing the force exists. You're not. You're just saying there's a correlation between height and air pressure, height and weight, or whatever.
No, I mean, unless you can come with another theory or another force or another, another.
I don't need to come up with another just story.
Who could explain it? Gravity is the best. Gravity is the best. Right now, gravity is the best explanation we have.
You might prefer it and think it might be your favorite just so story.
It's not just my favorite. It's the most proven.
There's no proof at all. It's just all you're demonstrating is that there's correlations, and you're calling it causation. But there's.
I'm doing a scientific method example, which you guys said on your show.
No,
is
not using the scientific.
Yes, he is.
No, you're not.
Yes, he is.
What in this is not scientific method? What step did I mess up?
Yes.
But you're
not proving
causation.
Proving
gravity. Gravity's not part of your hypothesis.
Yes, it is. I said if the air pressure changes as you move up and away from the Earth, then it must be due to the air particles being attracted to Earth, i.e. gravity.
No. What do you mean? It must be due to you haven't proven
that. That part of it is not something that you proved. All you're showing is a correlation.
Yeah, but I have multiple experiments that back up this correlation.
Okay, so what is the experiment that shows that there's a force called gravity that's causing masses to attract to each other?
The Cavendish experiment, which I did myself in physics class.
The Cavendish experiment is extremely spurious because you cannot prove that it's not some other variable that's causing the.
Yes, you can. You can put it in a Faraday cage. You can put it in a Faraday cage. You can put it in a vacuum chamber. It's been done.
Exactly. No, we do know how
can we see evidence that it's been done, please?
No,
can we see evidence that it's been done, please?
I can't understand what you're saying there.
We can't hear you. So, but Nami, do you understand how science works?
Yeah.
Yeah. So far, gravity is the best explanation, right? So until you come along, you prove, you show another explanation that's well documented. Then
no, it's not. You think you're just saying it's the best explanation because
that's he just took you through one hypothesis or one.
There's absolutely no proof that there's a generalized attraction between.
What do you mean no proof? I mean, you have the absurd, you have the data. Let's say you can measure changes in air pressure, or you can
right? Changes in air pressure do not follow the inverse square law. You know that?
It's an exponential form. It's not exactly the square law because there's other forces interacting, but it takes the same form factor.
If gravity was providing the sort of non-solid container, pressurizing container of the atmosphere, then we would expect the pressure gradient to follow the pressure gradient of gravity, which it does not. So,
what are you talking about?
I'm saying that the atmospheric pressure gradient does not follow the inverse square law of gravity.
No, because there are other forces interacting. The particles are.
There's other forces acting upon the.
Okay, like what? So what? So what that shows is that you can't. That this idea that the air pressure gradient somehow is subject to is being caused by the force of gravity actually doesn't line up with observation. So
absolutely, it does. That's what That's how 99% of people came to believe it. 99% of people aren't, buffoons. 99% of people came to understand this logically.
It does not follow the inverse square law.
No, it takes an exponential form, though. I mean, it's the same form factor. It's just a little different.
There's no exponential.
Yes, it is. It's like the barometric pressure equation. I can look it up right now.
Yeah, go ahead.
It takes an exponential form. It's like, an equation to the 0.75
it's not
root or whatever.
That barometric pressure does not follow an exponential form, whatever that is.
Yes, where you have a set of numbers that are risen to a power. Right? So it takes the same form, it's just not exact.
No, that's not how that's not how it works.
There are similarities. It's like saying, well, this is an addition. Do what?
Whatever. You just believe it. There's no proof. All you're showing is correlation.
There's no proof.
However many,
the atmosphere gets thinner.
However many correlations it's not proof. It doesn't show cause and effect. There's no
if there's no proof for gravity, what would you accept as proof?
There's no evidence that there's a generalized attraction between masses that follows the inverse square law. 0.
Hello.
I'm
Are
back.
we still on air?
Why did you
We're
use
talking about
circumstantial
gravity, are
evidence with a negative connotation, Nummy? Do you not know what the word means?
Yeah, I know what the word means.
Then why did you use it with a negative connotation?
I didn't use it with a negative connotation.
Yeah, you did.
No, I didn't. I just said circumstantial evidence doesn't prove cause. It's not negative or positive. Statement of fact.
Why can't why can't circumstantial evidence prove cause?
Because it allows for more than one explanation.
But
That's
what the hell are you talking about? Because science allows for more than one explanation.
Circumstantial evidence is like a just so story.
No, it's not. Like, this is what I'm saying. You don't even know the words that you're using, dude. Like, holy crap.
Hello.
How do you have a conversation with someone that doesn't understand English?
You tell me what
circumstantial evidence
trying to use
can
big words
have
because
many
you're on a
causes.
fucking
What you
hangout and you're
need
trying to
is a
look smart.
scientific proof
You don't know anything.
that can be verifiable and repeated.
Maybe you stick to words that are within your vocabulary, sir.
Somebody boot the troll, please.
Yeah, I'm
He's not being a troll. He's answering his question.
You laid out the method, and I came in and did exactly what you wanted.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, but they're changing the goalposts, right? They do this every time. As soon as there's
Presenting my evidence so you don't know what you're saying, Nomi.
No, you didn't. You didn't.
My
use the
circumstantial evidence that you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Listen, the beauty about science, right, is that, as Pimar said, there's room for many different interpretations. So, as if you can come along and you can like disprove the theory or change something, you're free to do it. I mean, nobody's stopping you. So, so far,
it's complete nonsense. Science requires systematic experimentation. Yeah, so you experiment again and again and again and again. That's the idea, and it establishes a causal relationship. That's what science is for. It's a method to establish a cause and effect relationship. That's what science is. So saying it's open to many different interpretations is nonsense. Pseudoscience might be open to multiple interpretation, but science is an establishment that basically establishes your cause and effect. That's all it does.
Guys, I found book 1 of science. Would you like the very first science book ever? Would you like me to read it?
No, who cares? Science is a method that establishes cause and effect relationships. I don't care what the book says.
You don't care.
Yeah, and by the way, Nami was correct. I looked up circumstantial evidence, and circumstantial evidence is evidence that relies on an inference to connect it to a conclusion or fact, like a fingerprint at a crime scene. By contrast, direct evidence supports the truth of an assertion directly, without need for an additional evidence or inference. So you need direct evidence, not like, oh, look, it seems to be like the globe of the heavens looks like a globe, so the earth must be a globe. That is circumstantial evidence. It just seems like it's like, oh yeah, this is like a globe, so that means that what we're standing on should be a globe. It kind of makes sense. It's an indirect connection. That's circumstantial evidence.
Or another way of putting that is an observation attached to a just so story, and that's all that they ever have. Observations followed up with just so stories. And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully for sharing this debate, and also a massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you've not done so already, be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!